So tonight, Dr. Payton, an author of 7 books, she is a member of the National Board of Professional and Ethical Standards. She has fulfilled mastery requirements for the Society of Neuro-Linguistic Programming and is an active member and founder of the Asheville Area Holistic and Integrative Professionals. Good evening, Dr. Payton. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You know, it's a little cold, but I'm sitting warm in my office.
That's right. I'm in California. I know everybody on the show is on the East Coast, except Carmen's in Canada, but it's freezing over there too. I'm so lucky. That's right. You guys are hit with some weather issues.
Yeah, well, everywhere.
Yeah, except California. It's so warm. Not that I'm rubbing it in or anything. I'm not really. I love the cold winters. Anyway, as I go to the beach every day. So, so Dr. Payton, can you tell us about who you are, what you do?
Sure. What I do is mind over matter solutions, and that is done through using hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, emotional freedom technique, acupressure hypnosis. And I also look at something called birth mix patterns, which is the subject for tonight. And that includes astrology, numerology, and birth order. So I use that to get to know my clients and people in general more quickly, so that we can do our additional work. That's how I started. I started with birth mix patterns. And then people said, well, what do I do now? You know, what is it that I do now that I know all these things about myself? And then I started down the path of studying intensely more mind over matter concepts.
You know, I love the birth mix pattern. I found you, actually. A lot of my guests, I run into, it's like synchronicity. I just was looking around Amazon, cruising around, like walking the path of the books, and I just found your book by accident, and I thought, wow, that's great, because I come from a very large family, and I remember my sister, she's a psychologist, and years and years ago, I don't know when this was, in the 70s or something, she was talking about something to do with our birth order. I never heard many years of anything about it. There was something she brought up. I don't know, and so when I came across your book, I was like, wow, that's interesting. It made sense to me, because there are certain orders of people at birth that, I mean, I'm sure you found out. And also, I love how you put people also were more enthusiastic about getting involved in astrology and numerology, because it was kind of fun. It was safe.
People have a preconceived. Some people are attracted to astrology, some to numerology. The birth order piece I found is actually my first breakthrough, because I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. So that was in the 70s and 80s, all the rage. And I remember reading an Adult Children of Alcoholics book, and it was talking about birth order, and I just couldn't believe it. How they pegged me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. But then, friends in the mind of, the mind, body, spirit, they'd talk about astrology and people's signs. And I thought, well, I should study that so I can kind of fit in. But I realized when I saw numerology, wow, that's interesting. And then, because I studied all three, I realized that you could take some of the top-end pieces, like numerology with life path, or some people call it the destiny number, astrology sun sign, and the birth order, and get a real quick fix for basic personalities in the workforce, your families, and kind of look at it depending on what you're preconceived with, but it kind of gives you a really good start.
I wonder if maybe that's right, actually, and I'm thinking about, you talk about the Adult Children of Alcoholic. I was real involved with that. Probably that's where I heard about the birth order thing. Maybe it was Claudia Black. She wrote a lot of books about adult children. Well, you just brought something up I just remembered thinking about. Yeah, that's right. Probably that's exactly where I heard about it, too. So anyway, what order are you in your family?
Well, I'll explain the process to you for birth order so that folks can follow along, because a lot of times people think that they know what their birth order is, and they're now right now, if they're listening, they're saying, "What? I know what my birth order is." They could be right. So I'll explain my family makeup, and then I'll explain what the birth order is. Would you like me to do that?
Yes,
how
that'd
that
be
works?
lovely. Thank you.
Sure. So I have 3 people in my family. I have a brother that's 7 years older than I am, and I have a sister that's 3 years younger than I am. What does that mean? It means, because there are 3 of us, that I have an only child brother in family unit A, because we have 5 years or more difference between us. So he had to learn how to play on his own and do alone time things, because there was too much of a change in age after 5 years old to say that he would be the firstborn. Now you go to family unit B, there are 2 of us, and there are 2 girls. I am 2.5 years older than my sister, so I am firstborn in family unit B. So I take on the firstborn role, and my sister takes on the youngest, so she takes on youngest traits. So it's really interesting. So you have a family of 3. You have an only child, a firstborn, and a youngest. But let's say, let me give some examples. So if there's a 5-year difference above and below, and of course if you're the only, period, then you're considered an only child from a personality trait. If you have a family of 6, and usually it's broken up in groups of 4. So you have a family unit of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, family unit A, 1, 2, family unit B. And that family unit B, that number 5 child, would be firstborn of family unit B. So it depends also on gender. So if I have a firstborn boy at the top of that pyramid of 6, and then a firstborn girl right under, if there's a 2 years less than 5 years, then it's a firstborn boy, firstborn girl. If you have twins, the twins look at themselves as their own unit. And then they definitely know those whatever twins are listening to this program know. Yeah, those seconds count. They will claim their firstbornness. I came out first. And they would become their own family unit, and then that next family unit, say C or B, would come after them if they were born, depending on the years and the genders. If you have a child, one child that has to be just a gorgeous child and extremely talented, and another one that's kind of shy, they can switch birth orders, where that child that's extremely outgoing and, gorgeous and all these sort of things, extremely athletic, could take on the traits of firstborn and leader, and then that other child can change in personality to a youngest, less leader-like child. Make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. What about if somebody had a family, or they didn't know about, there was, another children in the family, like the father had other children from.
That's a good question. So if you are in if you're 7 and under, but usually more 4 and under, and if you're born into the family and you're interacting with those other siblings when you're between 1 and 4 years old, you take on a birth mix like we just talked about. If they come in later, it's a separate kind of deal, because you've already developed your relationships, and most of your personality as a child has developed. Will things change? Sure, but your identity from that perspective when you're younger is still a part of you. It's still what forms you as a child. Make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense to me. So it is kind of interesting now. It's a little bit, it's fascinating to me, because you were talking about the switching of roles, and that does happen because I come from a big family. That I'm using my family as a good example. That there was like people that will leave the house or leave the role, and another kid would step into that role. Is what you're saying?
It depends on the age, but yeah, absolutely. Someone could definitely step into the role, but they're for instance, a youngest child has a tendency to have a little bit more of a sense of humor. Doesn't mean the oldest doesn't have a sense of humor. Doesn't mean the only child doesn't have a sense of humor. But the youngest child would have a tendency to prefer small groups, smaller groups. Would like to get people to smile or feel comfortable, but more on a one-to-one, face-to-face type of kind of concept. So while they might switch roles because of siblings leaving, they'll still have certain core things that they adopted because they were living in a particular order for that certain amount of time through childhood.
Okay, I understand that part. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So from there, then okay. So now, can you continue on?
Yeah. What
Okay.
kind of? So we have the firstborn, and that firstborn I would call the leader, and then the middle child. Real interesting thing about middle children. A lot of people think that they're middle children. But then when we just add that mix of if there's a boy and a girl, and then a girl after that, and there's three, say there's a girl, then there's a boy, then there's a girl, and there's only 2 years apart between those three. There'll be a firstborn boy, firstborn girl, and youngest. Now, if that youngest is born 5 years later after the second child, that child takes on only child traits because there's too much difference between them. So the middle child, sometimes the middle child doesn't even exist when you have 3 kids in the family, and that would be surprising to someone that might. A lot of times I get, if I'm with someone one-to-one, they go, aha, that makes sense, because what happens is it's genderized as well, and also if you have a child in a wheelchair or certain challenges. But that was firstborn. That secondborn would, go up top and take on more responsibilities. It would be more leadership roles and would be considered from that perspective a firstborn. Middle child will be, if you have 3 girls and they're 2 years apart, then you've got that middle child. You have 3 boys and they're 2 years apart, 3 years apart, then there's a middle child, number 2. So that's pretty straightforward.
I understand. I
Makes
understand
sense?
what you're saying because they're all the same gender.
Yeah, the middle
They're not-
child is going to be your negotiator. Now, interesting about middle child, a middle child is either a negotiator or a real heck raiser, and usually there's a little bit of both. It changes depending on the age, but there's still a negotiation type of element, even if that middle child is a tough one. The middle child will still see the value of the idea of negotiation, So that only child is going to, as I'd mentioned, that only child is a little more independent, but the only child will also be the first one. If you're sitting in a restaurant and you have an only child, anyone that's listening, that only child, if that only child sees another child sitting at a table, he or she will get up and go over and grab that child and say, "Play with me." They figure out how to create their community.
I like that. You always talk about only children being so I have one girl. I mean, I only have one child, but only have. That's enough. But they're always talking about, and they have issues with sharing or whatever. But I don't think so.
Only children, because they have to create their own community. See, when you have a family that's built in, that's your community. An only child has to create his or her own community. So many of them just aren't shy. They'll just go over and grab another child, and say, "Play with me."
That's really cool. I love that. So do you look at their sun signs too?
Yes. So then the astrology sun sign, it's what people see, in the newspaper, what your horoscope is for the day, but that's your sun sign. So what happens is I will look at the sun sign in combination with the birth order, in combination then with the life path number, and a couple of other numbers as well. But you'll let me know what you want to know from there. But so if I see a firstborn who's also a Leo. Well, that's going to say to me, this is going to be someone who wants to lead, who wants to come out in front. But the Leo traits also are building community, having a pride, a layer of people that they feel like they can know, like, and trust. And Leos have a tendency to be very generous. So they lead through generosity and community building, for instance. So I contrast and combine those to get a real quick feel for where people are coming from.
Are you a Leo?
I am a Leo.
So am I.
And when we get into numerology, I'll tell you my numbers as well, to talk about how they build up that pyramid of astrology, numerology, and birth order. But yes, I am a Leo.
Well, I like that because I'm a Leo, so this is good. This is great.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
we find each other.
Yeah, I think so. As a community, yeah, we do. We lead with generosity and pride.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Absolutely. Probably sometimes overgenerous. And that's something that the Leo has to work on. Some people think that Leos are ego, but and that could be part of it, depending on what age you are and other things, other elements. The other part is the generosity is pretty high to the point where we have to watch drinks for everybody, and like,
I know.
My husband would say, "Stop it."
The Leos are, very generous people.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you use the sun sign. That's a very easy way to go, but I mean, anybody can figure that out.
Exactly. That's super cinchy. And then you have the numerology, and something that I look at, which is our most important number in our chart for numerology, is called life path number. From my perspective, in my 3 books, that's what I call it, life path number. And there are other people that might call it something else, which is fine. Destiny numbers, sometimes you hear it called that as well. But what that is you add your day of birth, month of birth, and year of birth all together, and it creates, you either get a 1 through 9, 11, 22, or 33. And if I know that, I will do my best to slow down, and I have to do that consciously when I start to rattle things off. I do have under education, under MichellePayton.com, all of this information so that you can calculate your astrology, numerology, and birth order. So know that you will have an option to go look at something, and it won't cost you anything. But so you add that together, and that's there. But you add those numbers together, and so you'll get a number 1, which is a leader, or a number 3, which is an expert, what I call an expert communicator, or a number 5, which is that master multitasker, the person that always has 6 or 7 balls in the air, and somehow is able to make it all work out. You have the 7s that are more detailed, more Virgo-like, for those that are following astrology. Yeah, so those are the sorts of things. So then I start to put those elements together to say, how can we get a quick idea of what those easiest pieces of numerology, the easiest piece of astrology, and then birth order, which is easy to explain, and it's explained on education as well, so that people can look that up.
Well, it sounds like fun to do that.
It's a lot of fun, and when I wrote my first in the series, the first manual in the series, the book, I gave them to insurance companies, dental offices, that sort of thing, people that I knew, and said, "Hey, pass this around," because I wanted to take the woo-woo mysticism thing out of it and create a little fun around it, so people would get to know, like, and trust each other a little bit more. Just kind of say, "Look, this is who you are. I respect that. Now I know, and I will address you in a certain way so that I give you what you need as a communicator." People would call me and say, "Hey, we lost the book. Can we get another one?" After about a half a dozen calls, I finally said, "Okay, people must like this book." So, but it made it, and people have fun with it. But the idea is also to know that everyone can understand where someone is coming from It doesn't mean you have to like them, but it does mean that it's possible.
Yeah, and actually, then you could trade roles. You could trade roles, barter them off. But I do notice people do have role changes going on when, if there's an age difference, especially.
Yeah.
And then it's so they can be they can be tormented individuals too with using well, I mean, do you find and the main thing I love about what you put together, like you said, it's really a comfortable thing for people to get together and do, and I think it's great that you have this on your It's on your website, right? Yeah.
It is. It's at MichellePayton.com and you just hit education and it'll say calculate something like, I don't know, calculate your astrology numerology birth order, and you can click on that and it'll be there. Yeah, real easy to follow.
So then, so when you have this information and you could get calculations, so how would you fuse it together? I guess what is the best word of saying that?
Yeah, I'll use myself as an example, but if you also want me to use another example, I'll do that too, just so that you can, we can use another example. So, I am a Leo, firstborn girl. And my brother is 7 years older than I am, so I'm firstborn girl in family unit B. If my brother was a girl, I would still be firstborn girl in family unit B because of the age difference. So just to use that as an example. So I'm firstborn girl Leo, and I'm also a life path 6. Now, I will also mention at this point that there is our day of birth, and mine is 1/5. 1/5 equals 6. So I have a 6 day, and I have a life path 6. And what do you think that means? It accelerates my 6-ness. And 6 is the responsible one server. And remember when I mentioned to you that Leo is a community type of sun sign?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
6 is also a community-centered life path number, or number in general. Family, community, inner circle, caring, making sure that everyone's taken care of. Double that, plus Leo and firstborn girl. What if I saw myself on paper? What I would say is this person has a potential to be an enabler, overdoing things for people. And until I figured that out over time, everyone else can buy their own drinks, right?
Yeah.
That's, it's okay. I don't have to take care of everyone in the room. Once I figured that out, then I was more comfortable, more peaceful. But knowing that about yourself helps you look at it too. And if you look at that in a friend, a family, a lover, a life partner, a workmate, you can help draw attention to it too, saying, no, don't overserve me. I'm okay. So you as a friend or coworker can also bring that to fruition. I have had people ask me to look at a coworker circle, and hey, I'm the new manager. This manager left. Here's the information on them. What should I expect? How should I be working with these people? And how do they feel about me coming in and that other manager leaving? And I can I can write a basic story about what possible expectations to have. It doesn't mean that everything is spot on because people change, right? For me, I'm definitely a community server, value community, very much, but I also learned that no is a complete sentence. And that took me about 40 years.
I can relate to that. No, it's a very hard word for me to use. No. It hurts to say no.
Yeah. But when I hit 50, all of a sudden, no period made a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying. Absolutely. For those people that don't know how to say the word, I know it's very difficult, and it's funny. I can identify with that. So,
Well, yeah, of course,
if
because you have this show and you're serving a community.
yeah,
Makes complete
and
sense.
yeah, and but it is funny. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Say I had to learn how to the word no. Used to it was terrifying to say no. People to somebody saying the word no. I mean, it doesn't matter. I was like in my 30s or 40s. Whatever I am now, 50s, 60s. No,
Yeah,
not 60s yet,
yeah.
but yeah. So, and interestingly enough, like people in families. Well, I find it so fascinating. I never thought about how you're bringing up of picking the birth order, and it makes sense to me now. I always thought, okay, in my head, because there's 6 kids, 1, 2, 3, and I'm like the oldest of the second group. And it's the
Mhm.
same. Actually, it's interesting because this is exactly the same way you're. I mean, you didn't know this, so it's almost like the exact way you're looking at it. Because I always look at myself as the oldest of the second group of kids that were born
Absolutely.
because there's such a. They were like 1, 2, 3 very quickly, next to each other.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then there's myself, 5 years difference, and then we're very close in age, the three youngest. Like, you know what I mean? And no,
Absolutely. So you had family unit A, B, the top
yeah.
three, and then you
Hmm.
had that 5 year difference, which then puts you at the family unit B. Absolutely. It makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it does, and I love. I would never thought about that until you just explained. I'm like, oh, haha, aha, there you go.
Aha! That makes sense.
It
It
does.
doesn't mean you don't talk to your other siblings. It doesn't mean that you don't like them or don't like them or do like them. It has nothing to do with it because you're all siblings. It just means that that's how the family kind of ran day to day.
Hmm. And the chaos too.
Yeah.
The chaos too of no, it in actuality because well, and it's everybody listening. It really makes sense because there's 3 boys and 3 girls complete in the children, and so I'm the second girl, but I'm the oldest of the group B, right? If I yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
so I would like that idea,
Absolutely.
but also
That's
live as
right.
the black sheep.
Now you can take your now, Leo. You can take your place on the throne.
That's right, where I belong. What about black sheep?
That's right.
What about some people that are or I don't like using this word, but here it goes. Words, black sheep of the family or the underdog. Do you does that even play part in any of the wording? This, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure what. If you could be more specific, I can.
okay, or how about the one that like you said, stirs things. Well, you didn't say the word stirring things up, but I guess I'm using the terminology. Stirs things up, or perhaps feels like they're misunderstood because they're actually the most. Listen to what I'm saying. The most honest person in the family, or the family dynamics. The one that will feel isolated or not like the group,
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
uh,
and then there are. There's so many different reasons that that could evolve from that. If you have six, for instance, if there are 5 children, and say they're all 5, mom and dad were just got busy, and every 2 years,
yeah.
the 5 kids just boom, 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 boom. 10 years later, that number 5 child is that's a tough role for number 5 because you've got the first 4 kids in the peer group, unless there were 4 girls and 1 boy. You know what I'm saying? Where the boy is the 5th born, then the boy has the firstborn identity, or opposite, 4 boys and 1 girl, and the girl is the firstborn girl. So she's got her identity. But if you have, just boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, and it's just boom, 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 and then you've got number 5, that could create this feeling of I don't belong. That number 5 position, unless it's gender, or there's a larger amount of time in between, and that child takes on only. That number 5 can be a type of, the you've heard the term 5th wheel.
Yeah.
And so that there are scenarios like that, because it's just this is what the trends have shown, that it kind of runs in four. If it's if boom 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 boom, mom and dad were just, let's get it done.
Right. I think my parents were like, but actually, everybody. Yeah, my parent. Actually, there is a. They took 5 years. Well, whatever. Because boom, boom, boom. First three, and then me. I was the only planned one.
Yeah.
I was the only planned one, and and that's another. But the thing of it is, I noticed the roles changing lots in my family for reasons. Well, I don't know, but you also.
Well, what happens is then. What happens is once you leave the nest, then you'll still have certain properties that you grew up with, but there'll be there's some numbers in astrology sun signs that are more conducive to pulling family back into the fold, wanting to get to know someone better. We didn't really have a chance to get to know each other when we were kids, and I would really like to get to know you now. You seem really neat. So those sorts of conversations, happen as well. Again, you all still talk. I've had people say, "Oh, well, I still talk to my brother. I talk to my brothers and sisters up in the top family AA or the other way family bands." Of course you do. But it's just the way the roles kind of play out. There's some type of innate thing that it's like twins, or triplets, or whatever the lits are. If they have lots of it at the same time, which all that strange thing going on with multiples going on, being born at the same time, is that they know what their order is, and by golly, they're going to claim it. It's like a flag, it's a stake.
That's so true. We're going to take a short commercial break, Michelle, and we'll be right back. We're going to just take a 1-minute commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment from PsychicX.com.
A new era in psychic services has begun. PsychicAccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at PsychicAccess.com.
Okay, we're back with Dr. Michelle Payton, and Michelle, we're talking about. Oh, okay. So we left off. This is fascinating me. We left off. I guess I better bring us back to what we do. We found out the numerology. So how can we help communicate better with, let's say, well, how about if we look at the order of, like, there's 4 of us co-hosts on this show. How would you look into something like that in your work or something with, being able to relate?
Yeah. Well, what I would be looking at is I wouldn't look at it exclusively. I would really want to see the astrology, numerology, and birth order numbers so that I could contrast them, and I create a little grid then, and I put Maureen, Stephen, Carmen, Steve, and of course Duncan. Got to have him in there as well, and to say, okay, what would be the way that each person would prefer to work, and how would they communicate with one another. For instance, a life path 3 would be, hey, yeah, interrupt me anytime, jump in, don't worry about it, let's keep talking, it's like The View, keep going, or interrupt me. But if it's more like 7 or Virgo kind of thing, okay, you talk then I talk. Then you talk and I talk. So you have to know how each person wants to interact, and then basically you please each other.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
When it all comes down to it, you just... I like that. You just please. That's a good one. That's funny. Why can't we? People say, why can't we all just get along? Why can't we just all please each other?
Well, and for instance, when I was working in a group situation, and the treasurer was a life path 7. So Virgo E70, that's more measurable, very linear. So if I would say, what do we have in our bank account? I'm more top line kind of gal. So he would respond $100.33. Oh, wait a minute. No, we just got the report. $100.36. If I were to answer that and he were the guy asking the question, Michelle, how much money do we have in the bank? I'd say, I don't know. Last time I looked, it was between 90 and 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that worked. But if my audience, if the people that are asking that question, they want to answer this, well, no, tell me exactly. Someone shouldn't take that as, oh, you're badgering me. They should say, well, I'm filling that person's need because that person needs to the penny, because that's that person's personality. Right. So when we know that, we get along.
We don't get offended. I get that.
Right, we don't get offended. Yeah. Now, there's another number that I don't have in my books, but I do have under education, that I've been using a lot with clients over the past year, because when I see people, they're generally not there because they just want to sit back and kick back and say, I don't have any issues. I'm just here to say howdy. Usually they want to solve a problem. So there's a number called the balance number. And what you do is you look at your birth this is also under education, so you're A-OK. You'll get this information when I'm done. You take your original birth certificate letters, the first letter of each name, and it's assigned a letter. And then then you know what your balance number is from that, meaning that when you're under a stressful situation, this is how to best handle things for yourself so that you feel comfortable. So, if anyone, Maureen, you, Duncan, Stephen, Carmen, Steve, whoever wants to give me 3 letters, or if you have 5 letters, I can calculate that for you really quickly and tell you, for instance, what your balance number is.
Well, I'll give you mine.
Of course.
Can't we just all get along with Maureen? No.
What is it? What are the letters?
My first letter of M-A-U-R. M-A-U-R. Yes.
So you have 4 names on your birth certificate?
No, I'm sorry. You need the first letter.
The first letter of each name. Mine is Michelle Ann Payton, so it would be M-A-P.
Okay, M-L-H.
M-L-H. So I have this grid under education. So anyone listening, you can do this on your own. It's really easy stuff. So your M is a 4, your L is a 3, and your H is an 8. And again, this is all up. You're A-OK on being able to get to that information easily. And that equals a 15. When you add 15, so 8 plus, 8 plus 4 plus 3 equal 15, and 1 plus 5 equals 6, and voila, your balance number is a 6. So, of course, I'm not surprised you and I have that in common as well, but the 6 I've mentioned is a responsible one server. Those personality traits, that number and equivalent astrology, are what I analyzed all the first ladies and the presidents and first ladies of the United States before Obama. I published that book prior to Obama. And that personality trait, that responsible and server, that's the strongest trait for U.S. presidents and first ladies.
Oh, wow.
And isn't that interesting? But that says a lot by understanding that. You want to be, we'll call it a civil servant. for the lack of a better word. And and over serving is something that one would have to watch out, especially since you're a Leo.
Right. That makes sense.
You had Leo, yeah. See, but how do you find your balance number? What does that mean, balance? When you're in a stressful situation, you don't feel like your both feet are on the ground. This is when you treat people like they're family. You talk to people like they're a part of your inner circle. And that if you were to do it another way, become impersonal, become very not first person, but more remote addressing, it would not balance. It would not be part of the way you would balance yourself, because you're too personal of a person. It wouldn't feel like in balance. You would be remote from that person. You would be dissociated from that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. In fact, I think I love this. This is very interesting. You know, one of the co-hosts, Steve, he asked me to ask you what his was. He said,
"Okay, go ahead."
If
so
you don't
S,
mind, it's S as in Sam, F as in Frank,
and that's it.
Yeah, that's what he says.
S and F, no middle name.
I guess he doesn't have a middle name. He's from England. Maybe he doesn't have a middle name.
Yeah, okay. That was English. So S is 1, and F is 6. So that's a 7. Now, Steve would be kind of like your polar opposite, meaning that he would need facts. He would want research to find a balance. It doesn't mean he wants it all the time, but from this perspective, if his feet aren't both on the ground, if he's standing on one foot and he's trying to find balance, he would need a little bit more data to get to the truth. Data could mean a lot of things, but there would be a research element that would be, when he's in a stressful, uncomfortable situation, he would need more measurable information to feel grounded and okay. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes unbelievably, unbelievably. I mean, it's unbelievable. Absolutely. Yeah, he was just writing something. He says, no data, no conversation. He would be just like he is like
no
that.
Data, no conversation. Yeah. Again, you all can find that very easily. It's under education. Now the explanation. Of course, I have a basic line item that tells you a basic idea. Of course, more explanation you would have to speak a little bit
Your
further.
book would have all that information, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
The book?
Yes.
Birth mix patterns, right? And there are
3 of them in the series.
You have 7 books out, don't you?
I do. I have in the series of 3 for birth mix patterns. One is the general idea of birth mix patterns, and I analyzed all the presidents and first ladies and put like famous people under each number and astrology, sun sign, and birth order, that sort of thing. Then I have one for love relationships, how to use this information to understand love relationships and how to work that. And then one I have for groups. So how do you analyze groups? Like how would I analyze Maureen, Stephen, Carmen, and Steve and Duncan all in one group to understand that? And I give a process for that. So that's that other book.
So there's
I have
3
7
books. 3 books for this. What we're talking about. Okay.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
ma'am.
Go.
Mm-hmm.
And what are your other books? You have other books?
I have Healing What's Real, which talks about hypnosis, NLP, EFT, emotional freedom technique, and mind over matter solutions. So how do you use that? I have Solutions, SOUL-lutions, that is along that same vein. More of a workbook kind of thing, and then I have Adventures of a Mainstream Metaphysical Mom series. There are 2 in that series, and those are basically autobiographical. Mom coming out of the closet, and
that sounds interesting.
Living in the mainstream and trying not to embarrass my 3 kids.
Did you have them really close together in birth order?
I had my first 2, firstborn girl, firstborn boy. They were 3 years apart. Then I had my only child, who's 8 years difference.
Oh, okay.
So it's and no matter what, I mean, come out of the closet with mind over matter things. I definitely embarrass the daylights out of my kids when they're walking around in Main Street, so it's doomed.
I know I've been embarrassing my child forever, but it's paid off because she has a degree in neuroscience. She's in Thailand living, and so she was like real grounded. But she's studying the meditation and the mind together in science. So there's something obviously right. All the embarrassment paid off.
Yeah.
Well,
she went within.
I've been noticing, like, my brother has children that are 30 years, because he had a second family.
Yeah.
There's 30 years difference. But now, and they're twins too. So, actually, I won't see anything. Well, he'll probably, he's like really old, having all these kids that he's a grandfather of several children, whatever. These people.
Yeah.
These people nowadays. The thing of it is, I guess a lot of things won't matter because those kids, they're close. Their 30-something-year-old sister. It's almost like there's night and day, and I'm sure when the kids get older. The twins just turned 6. So I guess when they get older, the interaction will be different, of course. And that's when the role changes. It'll be more like Ma and Pa. They're brother and sister 30.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. Yeah, but yeah, you're right though. It's like they're totally different worlds. It's really remote unless they live next door and are always interacting, but still they would still take on a different role with that many years difference. It's just a totally different deal.
That's absurd.
Absurd. It really is way past the
expiration date.
It's like I don't even know you. Who are you?
I know. Oh my God. So Michelle, can you? We have about 5 more minutes left, and I wanted to ask you. Can you tell us about anything else like workshops, or you're in a private practice and people, what?
Yeah. You can go to michellepayton.com to check out more information, but an upcoming, if anyone's in the Asheville area, my next workshop is an emotional freedom technique, acupressure, hypnosis type of workshop. And but I teach self hypnosis and all the things that have to do with my work. So you'll see birth mix patterns workshops and those sorts of things as well. But you can go and again, that education will take you, Michelle Payton in Education. You'll see classes and events there too to check that out. I do have a Michelle's Mindful Minute that's free to everybody. You just have to click on there and you'll get a message from me every month. When you get tired of it, you can just stop listening. But but they're literally 3 years of messages. I'm really long-winded. But it's only a 1 to 2 minutes, so it's only once a month. But that's free. There's a lot of free stuff there. But yeah, I have a private practice here and see clients on the idea of using mind over matter concepts. Astrology, numerology, birth order is a big part of what I begin with. But once we get into session, we use hypnosis and NLP, EFT, acupressure, hypnosis.
You sound fascinating. I'm sure you're wonderful. You're wonderful for your clients. Really, and if I was over there, you're long-winded. No, I thought I was. I talk really fast. Well, you'll never know because I didn't overtalk you. But but why can't we all just? What were you saying earlier? Why can't all? I said it now. I forgot. Oh well, it was my mind.
You know what? Look, this is one of the big reasons for astrology, numerology, birth order concept, the birth mix patterns. Is just look. Why can't we all get along? and or at least if you don't like someone, at least you know why.
Right.
And you can just steer clear. But so many people take on other people's stuff and they misinterpret. Certain. And if you know that, then it becomes less personal. Then it becomes it's not about me. It's about how this person communicates and what this person prefers. I'm not in their on their list being one of their favorite people. Okay, I know why.
Yeah. No, it's really actually a good way of looking at it, and then that way you don't feel defensive and irritable or whatever. You can understand Actually, that is a
Yeah.
very good way, simple of everybody listening that can look at things. Then you can manage those crazy makers all
Yeah.
over the place,
Yeah.
or manage yourself. But well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed having you on here.
Great to meet you.
It was
To meet you
wonderful,
guys.
and everybody, on your guest page. I haven't sent you the link to that. I'll send you that on your guest page, which is up forever. We have your also your link to MichellePayton.com on there too as well for everybody. So thanks, Michelle, and stay warm.
Yeah. That's the secret
I'll
to
be
our
thinking
success
about you
right
when I'm at
now.
the beach.
Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Michelle. Good night.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers, get access, psychic access, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.